I've always said there are two things that it takes very little convincing for me to say yes to. It would be to play Batman in anything, and then play Sweeney Todd in anything.
I knew
Community theater, anything.
I knew you were going to say Sweeney next. There it is.
If you're putting together a community theater production of Sweeney Todd and you'd like to give me a call, I'm around.
Hey guys, James Wilson-Taylor here for Rock Sound. It's the latest of our video calls. We have been chatting with everybody from the comfort of their own homes. I'm delighted to say we have, once again, from Blackbird Brides, it's Mr. Andy Biersack. How are you, Andy?
Happy to be here. I'm not in the comfort of my own home. I am in the comfort of a hotel in the Chicago area in the United States. So I'm very happy to be here, though, and sitting in this desk chair.
I mean, I was going to say, is it still, the comfort level's still there? That's the important. If the home's not there, as long as we got some comfort wherever you
Clearly, I've made myself at home since I have a 3-foot-tall Blackbird Brides logo behind me.
Now, did you put that in yourself, or is that part of the rider these days? It's like, I will stay.
It comes standard. It comes standard in every hotel that you go to. You haven't been to the States in a while. Every hotel now has a Blackbird logo the minute that you enter.
Man, it's just nice to see that promo budget's out there. It's worth doing, always worth doing, man. Well, it's good to see you, man. I mean, let's start there. Obviously, you're currently out on the road. I've been chatting to loads of bands recently as they take those kind of first steps back into doing gigs, and it's been quite funny, people finding challenges in new areas that maybe weren't there before. Obviously, you guys had still been rehearsing and being able to perform remotely and all that kind of stuff. But has it felt weird at all? I mean, obviously joyous, but a little bit weird getting back on stage. How long did it take to kind of adjust back to life on the road, I suppose?
I would say that it was a pretty quick adjustment to playing shows. I would say that the first show we were in Nebraska, and I remember Jake and I looking at each other backstage and being like, "Oh, we have nerves." Which, I mean, it sounds, of course, you go out in front of a lot of people. There's obviously an adrenaline thing, but we've been doing this for a very long time, and so we have excitement before shows, but not really stage fright or nerves or anything like that. And all of us in the band were genuinely like a little bit like, "Oh shit, we're going back out there to do this." And it made for a great show. And subsequently we've done 22 shows or something since then. And we've just been having fun. I mean, every night there's such a unique thing to a live music experience that, as much as we all tried, all of us in the rock community tried to have the live stream concerts, and they were fun, and I think people enjoyed them. The feeling of the immediacy of a rock show, where there is the direct one-to-one connection with you on stage and the audience, and the ability to feel that emotion as a tangible thing in the air, it's very difficult, I think probably impossible to replicate unless you're physically there. So it's just been, when I was a little kid, there was a book series that I never read, but there was something for the soul. So it would be like Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul, or this playing rock shows has been the chicken soup for my 30-year-old soul.
I want that to be the title of the next book. That's what I like, right? Yeah. That's the perfect summation of it as a career right there. And I guess I should note as well, obviously a few of the new songs in the set list, we've got the singles and stuff there. You want to be playing those out live. Have you found that that's changed anything for you at all? Often, I guess, when people have recorded these tracks and seen the reaction online, it's obviously going to be very, very different to that visceral reaction, seeing it face to face. How have you found actually playing the tracks from this new record in front of the Blackbird Brides fans finally?
It's been awesome. And our audience is one that is always, they're incredibly supportive, and they're up to date on everything. So we play, whether it's Scarlet Cross or Crimson Skies or Torch, these songs, the fans know the words and are singing along with us, which also makes it unique because there's been such a long lead time for this record. Some of the songs like Scarlet Cross have been out for a year. When you normally do a tour cycle on a new record, you're easing those new songs in because in some cases people haven't heard them yet. Every night we play Scarlet Cross first, and there's the break where the music cuts out and says Scarlet Cross, and I'll hold the mic out, and every night everybody says Scarlet Cross. So it's a pretty great feeling to know that it's connected even without us being able to tour and get in front of people. So now that we're out there and doing it for real, it's incredibly exciting. It really is. you know, all jokes aside, there is such a with us as a band, it's been well noted that we're obviously a very divisive band over the years, but our audience has always been one that has stood up for us and shown up for us and has made this band succeed on any level. And I just feel so fortunate to be able to see that in a real way every day, see the tattoos and the cosplay and the makeup and the whole deal. It's just so cool, you know, and it really reminds you that I and the whole band, we've been given this really great life to get to have because of these people. And it's nice to be able to do these shows for them.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that kind of reaction, that kind of the audience spirit there backing you guys, because what I find really interesting about this record, and we say, you know, it's imminent at the time of recording, it's on the way, The Phantom Tomorrow. It feels like, maybe this sounds ridiculous, but the most Black Veil Brides record of all the Black Veil Brides records. It feels like the most full.
Interesting.
I feel like it really is. Well, I think it actually, I was trying to pinpoint, I think it comes down to something we actually talked about around the book, which was that thing where you don't necessarily distinguish between all the things you love. You know, you were saying like, okay, I got this love of Kiss, I got this love of musical theater over here, I love wrestling, and it's all part of the things I love. And this, to me, whether it's that intro track, which could be from Batman the Animated Series, whether it's moments like the interlude and the last track, Fall Eternal, there's big musical theater elements in there for me, man. Like, it's interesting that this really does feel like that attitude again of like, here is everything I love encapsulated in one big package for you. Here is Black Veil Brides. I mean, I guess just talk to me a little bit about combining those elements, really. What was the musical approach behind the grander concept as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we're in a lucky position in that we as a band kind of know our strengths, meaning individually, you know, we've got Jinx, who's a classically trained violinist and string composer. Jake, who's not only done a lot of rock production, but over the last couple of years has really delved into EDM production, electronic music production. CC is the type of drummer who, while he can shred, also is very musical in his attack and the way that he plays to the song. And then the addition of Lonnie, who is somebody who is an old school Black Veil fan and can help root all of what we're doing in the things that really made this band great in the first place. I think it's a really great combination of elements to be able to go into making a record and say, let's just, as you said, the most Black Veil Brides record, let's put all of this stuff in there and make an album that feels like it best represents different ideas and eras and themes that we've always maybe hinted at or flirted with, but now we can really fully realize and make something that feels unique to this band and not a record that everybody could make.
Yeah, fully realized is the term, isn't it? Because obviously you guys have toyed with the idea and done these concept records in the past, but it's that nice thing you like to see when bands develop and grow in that way. It's much more ambitious than those previous concept records. You've got the comic book character, obviously, which we'll come on to. You've had tie-in comic books. You've had the podcast. You've had that incredible looking cover art. You know, there's no wonder that people are dressing up at the shows now. It's built an even grander world within it than before. I guess my question is kind of what were the bigger challenges you found with that when you were stepping it up a gear and creating something that I would argue is even grander than those previous concepts you've done?
You know, I think a big factor that can't be ignored is the time that we had to do this. Nice. You know, the reality that we were probably going to end up making this record in a more piecemeal way had the unfortunate situation with the world not happened. So you try to take advantage of what we were presented, which was the inability to tour, the inability to do much of anything. You know, the lockdowns being as significant as they were in Los Angeles, we really only had, we go to the studio, we go back home. That was every day. You know, you spend time with your family, you spend time in the studio. And that was because of that specific isolation and the fact that our life could be entirely built around this album for the time that we were making it. We could spend time fine-tuning elements. And if something felt extemporaneous, it could be pared down. If something felt like it wasn't grand enough, it could be brought up. There was the time to, a song like Fall Eternal, it takes weeks and weeks of building it up. And then you realize that maybe, well, we need to have more vocals here. So then you go in and do more harmonies, then you do more gang vocals, then you do another pass, then you find church choir voices that you want on there. Then you've got, oh, let's bring Roberta Freeman in here and sing on this song. And, you know, just all this stuff that if we didn't have the time, I don't know that we could have made this record the way that it is. And so, it was just an opportunity to take advantage of. Obviously, the impetus is an unfortunate situation, but what we got out of it was the opportunity to make something that I think feels grand in scale because we could really devote the time to it.
Yeah, the gift of time, definitely. You can hear it all across this record. I'm glad you mentioned Fall Eternal there again, because again, one of the highlights, I think, of this record, and I think one of the reasons it did remind me of that musical theatre connection we talked about before, it's not just the strings kicking in there, but it feels like a suite. It's got movements to it. It's got lots of different elements going on and different styles. Just tell me a little bit about the approach to that, because I guess it also, you must have had in your mind, oh, this needs to feel like a conclusion. This needs to feel like almost an end credits moment on this, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that was actually a terminology that was used in the course of it was, if this is a soundtrack to this idea, this would be where everything has ended. This is the closing number. It's weird. It actually started just as a musical demo early in the process that Jake and Jinx had put together. And it stuck around. And, one thing that happened with this record was at some point we had a lot of material and we had a lot of ideas. And we were trying to figure out what's going to go on part one, what's going to go on part two, how is this all going to happen? How do we build this? How do we build this story sonically in a way that works from beginning to end? And it became pretty easy to say, okay, well, this will be the focus of how to end this part of this story, to have this song that feels, as you said, very like a cinematic climax, like this is the end of this story, and this is where, however this hero has come to be, this is where it's going to end. Especially when you have Kill the Hero right before it, kind of typifying where the story is leading. So yeah, it was always, and Jake and Jinx deserve a massive amount of credit for building out this song sonically and really having it as this beautiful piece that could have just been listened to as a musical number. And then for me, it just played so much into what my interests are, as you talk about, with the musical theater stuff and the, what I sometimes call, like, let's do if the Typo Negative did a Meatloaf song, like that's kind of the feeling there. And so it became a huge passion project for me to work with Eric on it and go, let's obsess over this. Let's every bit that we can add to this. And then, I'm singing horns to Jinx in vocal notes and sending it to him going, do, like horns that, cause I can't fucking play it. So I'm going like, can you do this? And then he'll send me something back and I go, no, brother, do more like that. And so it really was down to the last detail, such a collaboration with everybody. And I think it's one of the high points on the record.
Oh, absolutely, man. No, it really, really shines through. It's a lovely little conclusive moment on that record. And another track that people will be able to hear, I guess, by the time they see this, I really want to mention is Blackbird, because it's one thing to create a comic character and a protagonist to go through a concept record and have all this design around it and everything and know the story you want to tell. It's another to effectively give it a theme tune. I mean, this is, it's a title track for a character. That's got to kind of be, I guess, a bit of a challenge in itself. How were you thinking about what the musical language would be for this character's actual song there?
Well, it's definitely an interesting situation, because where it started was to tell the story of the creation and the mythology of heroes, and the idea that whether it's a theistic concept, whether that's a god or religion or whatever, or that guy's older brother used to do this crazy thing, and you hear the stories and the glory days and the mythology that's built around people. Growing up where I did, there was always mythology. There's, high school age, when you're 16, 17, is seen as like the peak of human life in the western part of Cincinnati, and stories that surround for the rest of the person's life around when they were at their best. And you should have seen me. And back in high school, that mixed with the idea of all those stories and the mythology that we build about people and about ourselves over time become calling cards or ideas that give us hope and feelings. And to write a song from the perspective of this thing, you can be this thing. You can always be this thing. And don't let anybody else tell you that you can't be that thing, because this person was, and it was great. You know, that was kind of where it started. And then as it progressed, it became about just the very idea of aspiring to something more and holding on to the things that you have internally that make you who you are, and living those to the nth degree despite outside circumstances. And that is where the narrative perspective, and it being about Blackbird the character, and then it being about the band itself, kind of connected, where we were going through a very tumultuous time emotionally, and as a band we were dealing with a lot. We were coming back together and making this record, and it started, as I'm writing the lyrics, it started to dawn on me that it was just as much about us holding on to the hope of where we want to go, and bringing this band back from the grave, and being what we want to be, and not letting people tell us that that isn't what we can be. And then, you know, I speak often about holding the things that scare me as moments of strength, you know, whether it's OCD or anxiety or whatever else. There's a line in the song about the beautiful fears I come from, and all the things that I think about every day that scare me or give me anxiety, and using them as a point of strength. And it's actually, you know, it's a song that, for me, with CC, our drummer, he came to me right when that song was getting recorded, after I had recorded the vocals, and he kind of expressed to me that the lyrics to that song really hit him on a personal level. And it was, you know, for me, I can't think of anything that's more of an honor than the people that are in this band and share this with me. The words that I write, they feel represent the things that they're feeling. You know, it's a huge honor.
Yeah, it's where concept albums, you know, well, no matter the artist, is where they're strongest, isn't it? Where you can reach parallels with what's going on in your own life as well. You can tell a story, but we can actually see, as a grander fan community, you can kind of relate to it on a wider note as well. It's really, really nice to see
exactly.
that, dude. I mentioned before, you know, this feels a lot more ambitious than previous concept, but just in the sheer amount of stuff that's gone around. I know you've done bits of that in the past, but it really does feel like it's sort of stepped up a gear in terms of the amount of things pushed around this story.
Sure.
How does that make you think about what might come next? If you decide to continue this story, continue another story, whatever that may be, has it made you think more about, oh, we could do, I mean, stage work? You've tied things through the music videos. Would a longer feature narrative be something you guys would be thinking about? I guess the sky's the limit at this point.
Yeah, I mean, again, I've said before, I will always be excited about whatever the most dramatic, crazy thing can be. So I'd love to be able to see this fully realized in film or TV. I think the characters are there, but at this point, you know, I think that the focus for us is to be a rock band, you know, something that we haven't gotten to do in a long time, which is to go out and play rock and roll shows every night, and hopefully get out to the rest of the world once we're allowed to and able to, and bring these new songs and this new record to people in a live setting. Well, I mean, we're not done, because we've got the other side of the coin to tell next year. So, you know, which we are pretty much done with. It's just in the mixing stages right now. So,
Cool.
you know, as I said, when we were making this record, the whole intention was always to have it be two parts, and the second part is more of a compendium. It's an addition. You know, it's more about the kind of flip side of the coin with the story. It's not meant to be its own separate kind of album. It's more just like additional things that we felt would be helpful to kind of showing the other side of the coin, with it, which is to tell the story of the villain more so than the hero.
Exciting, man. Very exciting to hear what comes next, man. It's cool to see this world keep building on up. Before I let you go, a couple of other things I just want to catch up on that kind of take place to the last time we chatted. Had a brief chat about Paradise City, of course, as that was coming out. And I know we said at the time, hopefully, maybe a series 2 could be in the pipeline at some point. You know, you'd love to do it, of course. Just wondered, has there been any more discussion beyond that? Seemed like it got a lovely reaction from fans, I got to say, season 1.
Yeah, I saw that you know, there was some posts going on about season 2. So hopefully, I mean, for me at this point, you know, I go when they give me a call. So you know, I would love to get to do Johnny Faust again. It's a character that I've now been able to portray for a number of years, and I think that there's so much more story to tell there, and I'm really excited to get to do it again. So yeah, whenever they're ready, I'm sure they'll let me know.
Well, and also, another acting role you kind of got to take on recently. We had a chat with Tyler Bates about this Dark Knight's Death Metal project, which is so ambitious again, and I'd love to see the huge array of musicians who got involved with that. But you got the dream role, man. You got the role right there. Finally getting to lend your vocals to the Dark Knight himself, the Cape Crusader. Talk to me about your approach. I suppose it's got to be, I guess, maybe a little bit daunting. As much as you're, of course, a fan, it's got to be a bit daunting to step into the Cape.
Much the opposite. I have said multiple times that it is the biggest layup I could ever get is somebody asking me to voice Batman. I've been trying to sound like Batman since I was 3 years old. So the hard part was only just I'd never done voice acting before, so learning how to do that. And it's one of those things where I think with more experience I could get better at it. And because it was a pandemic, I never got to act with anybody else, so it's very hard to know the term, like how the phraseology or how somebody's attacking lines when there's no one else to speak to. I'm recording everything either on my own or just me and Tyler in his studio. I never met another person who was in the show. So sometimes I'd listen back and go, oh man, I wish I would have said this that way because I didn't realize that they were going to take this line that way or whatever. But it was just such a pleasure. And then right before this tour started, we got to have the premiere in Hollywood, and I got to watch the whole series on the big screen in a theater, and it was pretty fucking cool. So yeah, just an incredible honor. And if anybody else in the world is ever, having Batman involved in anything, they can give me a call and I'll show up. I've always said there are two things that it takes very little convincing for me to say yes to. It would be to play Batman in anything and then play Sweeney Todd in anything. Community theater, anything.
I knew you were going to say Sweeney next. There it is.
If you're putting together a community theater production of Sweeney Todd and you'd like to give me a call, I'm around.
Man, that's something I'm going to be thinking about now. Dreamcasting a scene version of Sweeney Todd. That's what I want now. Yeah, you'll get the title, Ro. Don't worry. But
I was going to say, let's not.
That one's fine. I'm not going to insult you.
You need to go no further.
Role. I'm trying to think who'd be a good judge, who'd be a good Anthony. I'm trying to figure them out now. But yeah, we'll see.
Do that, please. Let this be a clickbait feature on Rock Stuff.
Yeah, the ultimate Sondheim listicle we've always wanted on Rock Stuff. Well, at least I've always wanted anyway.
Rock Sound's list of Sondheim. Yeah, that's great. I love that.
I could totally see it working. Well, we're going to have a bit more of an in-depth chat on the album. You guys will be able to check out track by track very, very soon here on Rock Sound. But I'll leave you for now with this, man. You mentioned live shows and everything. I take it UK is very much going to be on the cards at some point. Download was in the calendar, right? And then I can only imagine you guys want to get over here when you are able to play these songs for the people, right?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we've now had the same UK headline tour rescheduled about 47 times. Nobody knows about it because it's never been announced, but it's a tour that I'm very much looking forward to, and hopefully it can happen sooner than later. But yeah, at this point, we are hoping we can go abroad. We're being told that it's kind of iffy. So in the interim, we plan to continue to tour in the States until we're allowed to come over there. But I mean, look, it's been long noted that our relationship with the UK audience is really second to none. So we miss it very much. And as soon as we are allowed, we will be there.
Yeah, fingers crossed, man. Look forward to hearing these songs live. All right. Well, in the meantime, take care of yourself, man. And congrats on the record again. All right.
Thanks very much, man.
Yeah, good to see you, man. How's everybody?